Okay, I know that we are all recovering from lunch, and what I wanted to share with you today is the good news. If my first talk was mostly doom and gloom, what I was hoping to do now is share with you some good news. But in order to get us in the mood for that, I don't know if you noticed this, but after lunch, very typically, I have a hard time thinking. Are you like that at all? Something I always try. Let me see here. If you can hear me, clap 2 times. That was a surfeit of riches, sir. If you can hear me, clap 1 time. If you can hear me, clap 3 times. If you can hear me, clap 2 times. Very good. Okay. As we found earlier, there's a difference between hearing and listening. So thank you very much for helping us bridge that gap. Now, what I would like to do is before I launch into my talk, I want to show you a couple of quick brain breaks, okay? A couple of quick brain breaks. Basically what happens is that in order to help us be more effective thinking, when we get tired, we've been studying too long, one of the things we can do is we can tune in to our bodies and think about what we're doing with our bodies. If we use our brain to think about our bodies, we actually end up doing well, we get refreshed. So I'd like to begin like this. Could you please help me by doing the following? Very good. Now, I invite you to move your left pinky, okay, and your right thumb at the same time. So it's going to end up looking like this. Ready? Like that. In, out, in. See how they're both pointing the same way? Okay? So like that. So the thumb and a pinky. Thumb and pinky. Try this. Quickly. How fast can you do it? Can you do it accurately? No, not like this. Okay, try again. Left. And sometimes it helps if you bob your hands a little, right? So. Okay. And now, very good. Now, one more little brain break. Please join me doing this. Okay. And now, okay. And now that we're a little bit more refreshed, is it carrying? Is this? Okay. So, now that we are a bit refreshed, I will share with you a much more interactive and occasionally surprising, I hope, presentation than this morning. This morning was supposed to be serious and gloomy. This one, I have a few surprising things to share with you. So may I please just get my slides back up again? Sorry to cause so much difficulty over here. And over here, next slide, please. Next slide, please. Okay. I have to begin like this, okay? There are so many myths about the brain and thinking. It's stunning. And a lot of this is due to the fact that science changes constantly. A lot of these myths have been exploded in the last 15 years, and yet most people haven't heard it yet. So I start with myth number 1. Has anybody heard this one? Click once, please. Okay. Have you heard this? We only use 10% of our brain. Do you remember did you see the film Lucy? Lucy was a film about a lady who suddenly could use 100% of her brain, and she became very powerful. Next tab, please. We actually use about all of it. I'm sorry, there is no untapped 90%. We're running pretty much at capacity. Next myth, please. This is something that we hear all the time, and I don't blame us because everybody talks, are you left-brained or right-brained? Which has always disturbed me, because if you're left-brained, you have only half a mind. So this is something that was taught in the 1980s, but the world has changed since then. In the last 25 years, cognitive neuroscience is actually demonstrated through things like fMRI imaging, like ferromagnetic resonance imaging and so on. Next. Yeah. When you think, it's true that there are some areas that appear to be more crucial for certain cognitive functions than others, but we do have cases of people who are damaged in one part of the brain, and they actually manage to get that ability back elsewhere. You actually find that you can recover from many brain injuries, and by and large, thinking is done pretty much with all the brain all the time. White matter and gray matter, not just the surface, the white matter underneath it too, okay? And your hindbrain and all of this always moving. In fact, the white matter is absolutely crucial as the sort of connecting medium between the different hemispheres of the brain to make sure that holistic activity is being done. Finally, here's the shocking bit for teachers. I know I was stunned when I first saw this, because we go to teach a standard course in teaching nowadays will feature Howard Gardner's multiple intelligences, right? The thing that we expect, because if we're teaching this in our schools for teachers and teacher training, we expect that, well, isn't the scientific establishment behind this? Next, please. Most research psychologists and cognitive scientists reject Gardner's view. There are a number of good reasons. We could go into the technicalities of it, but basically, the idea is this. Here's one of the most important reasons why it doesn't work. If Howard Gardner's specific theory of multiple intelligences worked, then you would find it being the case that somebody who has intelligence in one sort, okay, of one sort, would also be able to have less or almost no intelligence in another place. They should be independent. If multiple intelligences, the way Gartner talks about it, is true, then we should be able to see that these intelligences are independent. Unfortunately, that's not the case. Rather, the old IQ notion of G, Spearman's G, from way back in 1904, where we have a generalized intelligence, that actually is very well established. And unfortunately, it turns out these multiple intelligences, the more you have of one, typically, the more you have of the other ones too. They're correlated. They're correlated. But don't worry, that's bad news for Gartner. That's not bad news for you. It's not bad news for the teachers, okay? Because I think that Howard Gardner's theory became popular because it captures a great truth that we as teachers already know. Next slide, please. Our students do indeed have different learning styles. And if you look at it, many of the features of multiple intelligence do line up and sound like the good stuff. Do you remember we talked about VACT, V-A-K-T? How do our students learn? They learn visually, auditorily, right? They learn kinesthetically. They learn tactilely, by touch. And how else do they learn? The one that we usually forget, the sense that we forget that's so important, olfactorily. There are ways of helping us learn by smell. If you don't believe me, think for a second about a chemist. A chemist actually uses their sense of smell quite often in the lab. Or, here's another type of chemistry, one that I recently enjoyed, cooking. Again, there is an intelligence that goes with olfaction, with the nose, and of course that relates to taste as well. We also see that if you have, for instance, a mechanic in a car, if you want to find out where's the problem, you often smell to see if there's burning somewhere. Like, where's the scent? You can actually locate the problem. And by the way, expert diagnosticians, medical practitioners, who hope to diagnose different diseases routinely use their sense of smell in order to help them figure out what the problem is. So what is good is on the left, and our students do learn through different sensory modalities. That's right. And Gartner we don't need because we've already captured the good stuff. The lesson for us as teachers is that for how we have these modalities of presentation is such that we as teachers realize we teach more effectively if we engage more than one sense at a time. Okay? That's the idea. And by the way, everybody on stage today has had a sense of that, because all these activities, from brain breaks to the lovely rope example earlier for cooperation, all of these are activities. They engage our sight, they engage our hearing, they engage, obviously, our movement and our sense of touch, right? So they actually engage all of this. All right. So next slide, please. What is the gain? What is the gain? How do we use these different modalities to teach? Now, this morning, I talked about the dangers of teaching our students as if the one thing they had to learn were facts. And I said, Facts nowadays, not really what's important for teachers. Simple example, all those myths were thought to be facts that have been overturned. Facts are cheap. If you want to check any of those, just go on the internet, go check out Mrs. Wikipedia, and she can help you with all of those facts I just listed. Anyways, the point is that when we're talking about engaging our students successfully, what is it we hope to teach them if not facts? Facts are important, but they're not the most important thing because they change, or they are only discovered later, or they're available for easy reference on the internet, for instance. What do we need to do? Well, one way of separating out what we need to know is this. If we take everything that human beings know, all right, we can divide it into roughly 2 baskets. Okay? I have to give you a challenge, man. Roughly 2 baskets. Know that and know how. Flip, please. Next slide. First of all, we have facts. Next hit, please. We talk about facts by using the words know that. So for instance, if I wanted to talk about a fact, I would say, I know that 2 + 2 = 4. I know that Lee Hsien Loong is the Prime Minister of Singapore. I know that I am in a room with 1,200 fellow educators, and it's a great feeling. I know that men with mustaches are all incredibly handsome. They both have mustaches, as do I. There's another one. So, you have a mustache, right, sir? Yes. Okay, good. So the idea is, look, another mustache, another mustache. We know this, right? The ladies will agree, won't they? Of course. Now, the thing is, sure, okay, it's a fact. Well, at least it's a claim to a fact. It's me saying, I know that, okay? It's a claim, and that's supposed to be a fact, right? It's supposed to be a fact. Now may I please have the next slide? Tap. How about skills? Tap. When we talk about skills, I remind you, we use different words. When we talk about skills, we talk about know-how. As in, I know how to ride a bicycle. I know how to swim. I know how to play cricket. I know how to speak a language. I know how to solve problems. Maybe I even know how to make friends. Okay? That's know-how. And now please remind me, of course everybody in this room will know this, who is that really fantastic cricketer, the greatest cricketer of all time, the fellow who is even better batsman than Bradman? That would be, Sadekar is his name? Sachin, right? Yeah. Right. Sachin. Is Sachin any good at cricket? Oh, come on, this is not a hard question. Does Sachin know how to play cricket? Well, what's the answer? Does Sachin know how to play cricket? Yes. Does he really know how to play cricket? Yes. And when we talk about a skill, that's what it is. You see, Sachin is skilled at cricket. Yes? In other words, he really knows how to play it. When you really know how, then you are said to be skilled. Skills are simply know-how elevated to the level of excellence in practice. That's all they are. Okay? It's just know-how. So we as teachers, when we are hoping to be teaching our students about skills, what is it that we are hoping to teach them? We're hoping to teach them the things that fall on the right-hand side, the things that we can talk about as know-how. Next slide, please. Now, here's the funny thing. If I ask you, can you learn to ride a bicycle by watching YouTube videos? No, that would be very painful, right? To ride a bicycle, what do you need to do? Get on the bike? Yes! To learn how to play cricket, do I only have to watch YouTube videos? No. Could I simply just get lectured? If you give me a lecture on batting, could I be as good as Sachin? No, right? The idea is, how do I get better at batting? I bat. So to learn to ride a bicycle, I get on the bicycle and ride. To learn how, to get know-how for swimming or speaking a language, I need to swim, I need to speak. If I want to learn a language, if I want that know-how, I need to do it. In the doing is the learning. In the doing is the learning. In other words, unlike YouTube or something like that, in order to learn a skill, I need experience. I need experiences of the right sort. And so, tap please. How do we go about giving this know-how to our students? Well, we start with something in real life. For instance, we might see that, I don't know, we want to learn about an economic idea. So let us say that we have, let us say we go to the vegetable stall. We have one right out here on the road. We're going to go buy some fruit or some vegetables. I give some money to the gentleman. He gives me back my vegetables, right? Sure, so that's a real life type example, right? Tap. If we want to understand this experience, we need to pull out, to abstract what is important in it. For instance, what we have here is a case of supply and demand, right? The vendor is supplying the vegetables, and I am demanding them, vegetables. Similarly, he is demanding rupees, and I am supplying them, right? Sounds like we're getting to economics already. What you wind up with when you model that, when you do that, is you wind up with a model. That's what experiential learning is. It's creating a model, all right? And economists have many models. We have, for instance, free markets, we have oligopoly, we have monopoly, and so on, right? Now, here's where it starts getting interesting for us as teachers. And by the way, this is in every subject. Like physics, there is no such thing as an ideal gas. It's a model. But is it useful? Yes, right? So on. Or in physics, we generally do not have frictionless surfaces, right? But is it a good model? Yes. Is it useful? Yes. So from here, next tab, please. If you take the right kind of model and you add a little bit of fun, what do you get? What do you get? Tap. You get a game. You see, any game is simply a model that presents an interesting enough problem for you that you don't mind spending an hour or so doing it, right? So for instance, have you heard of the game Monopoly? You go around the squares, you roll the dice, you go around, and you can get properties, buy hotels, that kind of thing. You move around and you trade and all this kind of stuff. Monopoly was a game, okay? It was a game invented by a lady in the US at the turn of the 20th century, so like around 1900, somewhere around there, she invented it, okay? It's an old game, but a lot of people enjoy playing it. And it's a model of real estate and ownership. Now here's the thing. If you add a learning point to that game, you know what you get? You get, next tab, an experiential learning lesson. Because you know the lady who invented Monopoly? Do you know why she invented it? She wanted people to appreciate the evils of monopolies. Instead, we all play it for fun, but she was actually pointing out that through this game, it was educational. The first time you land on a space that's owned by somebody else with a hotel on it, it can be deeply educational. So the idea is you have a lesson now. You're saying we're not just going play, 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 but in the play, we're using the play to capture an experience, to direct and craft an experience. And in that experience, we are expecting our students, with our guidance, to pull out a learning point, to practice our target concept or skill. Next, please. From that experiential learning lesson, we then ask our students to say, well, where else in your life can you find it? Where else in your life do you see this? And again, you'll see it in many places, right? You'll see it in many places. You'll see not just at the vegetable stall, but at the fruit stall. Or last night, we went to a sweet shop right down the street. Of course, I bought some sweets and gave them money, and they gave me my sweets. Of course, right? You do it again and again. Next slide, please. Okay. Now, the funny thing is, if you simply have an experience, okay, what we want to do is to help our students in their know-how get good at pulling out the meaning of experiences. I'm going to have this following sort of activity with you. I hope you don't mind. I'm hoping to hold an auction here. I am going to give you free money. Is that okay? No? You good, good. Now, in fact, I was careful about this. I have here, I kid you not, 300 rupees, okay? I have 300 rupees. If you really want, I could make it. No, I don't have my 500 rupee note on me. So here is 300 rupees. You can get a couple of nice boxes of sweets for this, can't you? Right? You could get in the airport, let me see, 60 rupees is a Coca-Cola or a thumbs up. So, you know, you get 5 thumbs up for this, maybe 6. Why not? So, 300 rupees. And I will give these rupees to the winner of an auction, okay? An auction means you bid a certain amount of money, and the winning bid gets the prize of the auction. And let me tell you the rules for the auction, because these are pretty straightforward. They're not confusing, I hope. It's like this. First of all, if you have bids, please, 300, let's not go up by 1 rupee increments, please. Have mercy. Go at least 10 rupee jumps, okay? Just to keep our time running, all right? Second, in order for this to work, I will need at least 2 bids. So here's how it could happen. I could go to you, you say, I want the money. So you say 10 rupees. And then maybe over here you would say 20 rupees. And if that was the end of it, why, you just got 300 rupees for 20 rupees. Pretty good, right? Pretty good? Ah. You see, you pay 20 rupees, you get 300 back. good deal. Now, here's the thing. I look at you, madam, and I see there is craft in those eyes. Can always tell. And I look over here, and I know the one over here. I know she's dangerous, and there's craft in her eyes. So, the idea is this. You two cannot agree like this. You cannot say, hey, you say 10 rupees, I say 20, we stop, then we each split the money. Cannot. Okay? Any collusion means both of you pay me, how much did I do my penalty there? Can I have my slide back? I think it's like 2,000 rupees. Okay. 2,000 rupee penalty applied to each of you. I'm watching you. Finally, because we have a number of people playing, I have only one last rule. One last rule. And this is playing the game. The auction works a little bit like the famous card game of poker. Okay? In poker, the way it works is everybody has to put money in the center of the table, and as you go around, you keep putting more money in until you reveal the cards. And then the winner takes that central pot of money. Well, this one works like that, except it's nicer than poker. It's nicer than poker because this one simply says, look, in order to get the money, all you have to do is this. You say, all right, I will, well, let's put it this way. I will take the person who wins the auction. So if you bid the most, so remember my 10 and 20. If 20 wins it, then the person who bid 20 pays me 20. I give them the 300. But the second person would have to pay what they bid too. But it's nicer than poker. So in other words, I'd get 10 rupees from here, 20 rupees from there. She gets all 300 rupee. However, if 3 people bid, the third person, no charge. So you're safe. Okay? So it's nicer than poker because in poker, everybody pays. This one, only the last 2 people pay. Fair enough? So, are we ready for the free money? Are we ready? Keep an eye on those. Okay. So, do I hear 10 rupees? Wait, just raise your hand if you do 10 rupees. 10 rupees. 10 rupee. Okay. 10 rupee. Do I hear 20? 20? Anybody got 20? I see 20. Okay, 20. Do I hear 30? 40. I heard 40 over here. 50. 80. Do I hear any more? What? How much is that? What? 100. So I have 100 and I have 80. Okay, come on. 290. And 300. By the way, I just made money. Okay? Because one bid 290, one bid 300. Now, where are you? My 300, you're 290, and my 300 is, okay. Wait, just one of you, okay? So we have 300 and 290. Now, if you pay me 300, I give you 300, he also pays me 290. Oh. Rules. Give me my rules. Give me my rules. What's the bottom one? Second highest bidder also pays. So what are you going to do? Are you going to? Well, she said 300. You have 290. You 310. He said 310. Why? Because he's quite smart. Because if he does not say 310, then he is now out 290 rupees. But if he bids 310, notice what happens. He's only out 10 rupees. Excellent. You're out 300 rupees. Do I hear a bid from you? 320? 320? Because now you're down 320? I think they're looking for 320, okay. 330? 600! Wow, okay, look. All right, now look. It's okay. Okay, look, I did trick you. This is not quite what it appears. Before I talk anymore, maybe I am willing to pay this, but I don't want to stick it to the people here. You can come talk to me after the talk. We'll take care of that, okay? But here's the idea. Dear people, when we take a look at this 300 rupee auction, it's an interesting experience, right? It's an interesting experience. What does it mean? What could be the lesson point? It's an experience, right? Any ideas? Nothing wrong, no bad ideas. What could we do with this experience? Right. This is where the art of the teacher comes through. In order to teach, we need not just interesting experiences. Here's where we need the lesson point as well, right? So that people can find the meaning inside the experience. I'll give you one. Here's a simple one, okay? Do not ever bet a man at his own game, because it wouldn't be his own game unless he expected to win it. That's a life lesson. Second life lesson. This is a way of illustrating in economics the concept of a money pump. Basically, once you continue, notice he went to 600. Smart man. He stopped the bidding because at 300 and so to 600, there's no gain for them. It's not better if they go to 610. They would both stop. So you, very cleverly, and well done, not many people catch this, you created the right kind of gap to stop it so that people would be indifferent to the solution, okay? So would you end up fair, okay? So, what you're doing is you're performing a cost-benefit analysis. What's my cost? What's my benefit? And at the end of the day, do you figure out how it's working, right? I mean, do you understand what the best choice is? The same thinking that got you to move to 310 is the same thinking that got you out of the problem. Does this mean, however, because you can have a money pump, that cost-benefit is bad? It's a flawed tool? No. Rather, what it means is something different. What it means is that if you use a tool like cost-benefit analysis, you have to use it all the time, and especially before you start playing the game. This is a game where playing it means you lose. Okay? So costs and benefits, don't play. That's the correct analysis for the game. That's an example of experiential learning. And now for the rest of their lives, and your students that you do this to, please don't take their money. You teach them this, the playground, I tell you, going to become very difficult. What we see is that we want to make sure that our students will remember the lesson. They'll remember the idea of maybe cost-benefit analysis or do not bet a man in his own game, good life lessons. And forever after, they'll understand it. And they'll also say, well, where else in my life can I apply it? Ah, this person over here, maybe I don't do this deal, right? Somebody calls you up, they say, oh, I have this great deal for you. I have a lot of gold. I'm from Nigeria, and I'm actually a prince. Please hang up. Okay? So, next slide, please. The last question, and I'm not going to go into this in great detail, but along with the theme of what are skills, the know-how, the best know-how for us is going to be the real multiple intelligences of the 21st century, situational, collaborative, and global intelligence. Next slide, please. Next slide. And next. So situational intelligence, we need to develop all those skills that help us make good decisions in a changing, evolving world. Next tab, please. CQ, collaborative intelligence. We need all the skills that help us work really well with the person next to us. Right? So for instance, to work well with the person next to you, we need communication skills, we need emotional intelligence, right? And finally, here's in line exactly with our theme, and I'll spend just a little bit more time on this, GQ, global intelligence. And global intelligence would be all the skills we need in order to be effective global citizens. Next slide, please. Next tab. And one more, okay. Now, there are many different models for a global citizen. But this is a construct that a lot of people appreciate. And I want to just share a couple of things about it. What makes for a global citizen? What do they really need to know how to do? Well, number one, they need to know how to be ethical. They need to know their own values. They need to be grounded in what is good. We need to know what is important to us. And by the way, all around the world, there are certain virtues, certain values that everybody shares if they want to be successful in working with other people. For instance, wherever you go in the world, honesty is the best policy. Wherever you go in the world, if you say, I will do something, then you have to do it. Yeah? You have to be reliable. Now, the way that this plays out can be different from one culture to another. I'll give you an example from Singapore. If I go to somebody from Singapore and I say, could you do this for me? And the person says back to me, that would be very difficult. And I say, could you do this for me? And they say, that would be very difficult. What are they saying? They're saying no, no, right? Now, I understand that. They don't need to use those exact words. I understand it, right? So the idea is we're actually communicating, but the words are a little different. It's a culture. In Thailand, for instance, much more than anywhere else, people will never say no to you directly. If you ask somebody to come to your birthday party, they'll always say yes, and then they do not show up, and you say, why did you not come? Why did you say yes? And they will say, well, I did not want to say no, and I wanted you to be happy for all that time expecting me to come. Welcome to Thailand. Okay? Look, but there are signals, so if you are in Thailand, you can tell when it's one and when it's the other, but it's different. And you can get reliable results, you simply have to know how it's done. At the end of the day, it's all about your ethics, knowing how to be a good person. Once you are grounded and you know what your values are, then you can express a further virtue, openness. If you're going to be a global citizen, you have to be open to people from all walks of life, right? Because you meet lots of people, right? And the interesting thing there is, by the way, openness happens to be the one factor that's sort of an almost personality trait that is correlated with intelligence. There's actually a correlation between openness and intelligence. Interesting, huh? After you are open, what form does that openness take? Well, you have to be willing to draw upon your own talents and the talents of others, sometimes leading, sometimes following, in order to get things done. When you are comfortable doing all of that, when you're comfortable knowing who you are and your values, being open to others, draw upon the talents of others and yourself, sometimes lead, sometimes follow, when you're comfortable with that, you are a global citizen, a person who is part of the unity within the diversity of mankind. Last slide. That's it. So what I'd like to do is just thank you very much, and if you have any questions, I'd be happy to take them. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Are there any questions, or is that, oh, maybe I turn this back over to you.